Brian, can I ask you something a little awkward?
Sure, go ahead.
Do you find it hard to say no to people? Like someone asks you for a favor and you really do not want to do it, but you say yes anyway?
Oh, that is so me. I have said yes to things I absolutely did not want to do just because I could not find the right words to refuse, and then I spent the whole time regretting it.
Same here. Oh, hello everyone. Welcome back to Talk English Freely. I am Jessica, and this is Brian, and we are so glad you joined us today.
Great to have you here.
Today, we're talking about how to say no politely in English. This is one of those skills that sounds simple, but is actually really hard in practice. Knowing how to decline without hurting someone's feelings is a true communication superpower. If you enjoy our conversations, please subscribe and give us a like. It really helps us so much.
It means the world to us. Now, let us get into it.
Okay, Brian, let's start with a basic question. Why is saying no so difficult for so many people?
I think it comes down to not wanting to disappoint others. From a young age, many of us are taught to be helpful and agreeable. Saying no can feel selfish or rude, even when it is completely reasonable. So people default to saying yes, even when they are overloaded or uncomfortable.
Right, and in English, there's an added layer for learners. You might not know the right phrases to say no politely, so you either say a blunt no, which sounds harsh, or you give in and say yes when you do not mean it. Neither option feels good.
Exactly, and the truth is, saying no is not selfish at all. It is honest, and it respects both your own limits and the other person's time. A clear, kind refusal is almost always better than a reluctant yes that you cannot follow through on.
So well said. Brian, what is the most basic and natural way to say no in English?
The simplest approach is to soften the no with appreciation first. Something like, "Thank you so much for thinking of me, but I am afraid I cannot make it," or "I really appreciate the invitation, but I am not going to be able to join this time." Leading with gratitude before the refusal makes it feel much warmer and less abrupt.
Right. And adding a brief reason helps too, even if it is general. You do not owe anyone a detailed explanation, but a simple reason makes the refusal feel less personal. Something like, "I have a prior commitment" or "I am a bit stretched at the moment" is enough. It shows you are not just dismissing the person.
And the phrase, "I am afraid," is really useful here. It is not that you are literally scared. It is a polite English way of introducing bad news or a refusal. "I am afraid. I cannot help with that right now" sounds so much softer than just, "I cannot help."
I love that one. Brian, what about saying no at work? That is a situation a lot of people find really stressful, especially when it involves a manager or a senior colleague.
Workplace refusals need to be handled carefully. You want to be honest about your capacity without sounding like you are not a team player. A good approach is to acknowledge the request first. "I really want to help with this project. However, I am currently managing 3 deadlines this week, and I am worried about the quality of my work if I take on more." That shows awareness and responsibility rather than just refusing.
That is such a smart way to frame it. You are not saying no to the work, you are saying no to doing it badly. And offering an alternative helps a lot too. Something like, "I cannot take it on this week, but I could help next week if the timeline allows." That keeps the relationship positive and shows you genuinely want to contribute.
Right. Offering an alternative or a compromise is one of the most powerful tools when declining at work. It shows flexibility and goodwill. Even if the alternative does not work out, the gesture itself is appreciated.
For sure. Brian, what about social situations? Like when a friend invites you somewhere and you just do not want to go?
Social refusals are tricky because you want to protect the friendship. One really natural phrase is, "I would love to, but I already have plans that evening." Even if your plans are just staying home and resting, that is still a valid plan. Another option is, "That sounds really fun, but I need to take it easy this weekend. Can we plan something for next time?" That keeps the door open while still saying no now.
I use that one all the time. Can we plan something for next time? Is great because it signals that you value the relationship even though you are declining this particular invitation. And I need to take it easy is such a gentle and relatable reason. No one can argue with needing rest.
And sometimes you just do not want to give a reason at all. That is completely okay too. I appreciate the invite, but I am going to sit this one out is perfectly polite. You do not have to justify every decision.
Right. And Brian, what about when someone keeps pushing after you have already said no? That is a situation a lot of people really struggle with.
That is one of the hardest situations. When someone does not accept your first refusal, the pressure to give in becomes very strong. The key is to stay calm and repeat your position without over-explaining. Something like, I understand, but my answer is still no. I hope you can respect that. You are not being rude. You are being clear.
That takes real confidence, but it is so important. Over-explaining when someone pushes back often backfires. The more you explain, the more ammunition you give them to argue with. A calm, brief repetition of your no is often more powerful than a long justification.
There is actually a communication technique called the broken record. You just calmly repeat the same phrase each time someone pushes. I understand, but I am not able to do that. I understand, but I am not able to do that. It sounds simple, but it works very well in practice.
Oh, I have used that without even knowing it had a name. It works because you are not giving new information to argue against. You are just holding your position firmly and kindly. And eventually most people accept it.
Right. Persistence without aggression. That is the key.
For sure. Brian, let's talk about some specific phrases people can use. Can you give a few examples for different situations?
Of course. For social invitations. That sounds lovely, but I am not going to be able to make it this time. For work requests, I would really like to help, but my plate is full right now. Could we revisit this next week? For favors, I appreciate you asking me, but I am not the right person for this one. For persistent people, I hear you, but my answer has not changed.
Those are so useful. And I would add a few more for everyday situations. When someone is selling you something you do not want, thank you, but I am not interested today. When someone asks for your personal opinion and you do not want to share it, I would rather not weigh in on that one, but thank you for asking. And when you need to cancel something already planned, I am so sorry to do this, but something has come up and I need to cancel. Can we reschedule?
That last one is really important. Canceling is a form of saying no too, and doing it as early as possible with a genuine apology shows respect for the other person's time. Adding, "Can we reschedule?" softens the cancellation and keeps the relationship intact.
Right. And Brian, is there a difference between saying no in American English and British English?
There are some subtle differences. British English tends to be a bit more indirect. Phrases like, "I am afraid that will not be possible," or, "I do not think that is going to work for me," are very common in British English. American English is often a little more direct. "I am going to have to pass on that," or, "that does not work for me," are more American in style. Both are polite, just slightly different in tone.
That is really interesting. And for English learners, the most important thing is not which style you use, but that you say no clearly enough to be understood. Sometimes learners are so indirect that the other person does not even realize they are being refused. That causes a lot of confusion.
Such a good point. If your no is too soft, it sounds like a maybe, and a maybe invites more pressure. You need to be warm but clear, polite but definite.
Perfectly said. And Brian, what is the most important mindset shift for people who really struggle with saying no?
I think it is this. Saying no to one thing is saying yes to something else. When you say no to an extra project at work, you are saying yes to your well-being and the quality of your existing work. When you say no to a social event you do not want to attend, you are saying yes to rest and recharging. Saying no is not negative. It is a form of self-respect and honest communication.
That is such a beautiful way to think about it. Every no creates space for something more important. And when you say yes to everything, your yes starts to lose meaning. The people in your life will actually value your yes more when they know you are capable of saying no.
That is so true. A yes from someone who never says no means very little. A yes from someone who is thoughtful about their commitments means everything.
Brian, I also want to talk about saying no to family. That is often the hardest situation of all because the relationships are so close and the expectations are so high.
Family refusals can be really emotionally charged. There is often guilt involved, a sense of obligation, or fear of damaging the relationship, but the same principles apply. Be warm, be honest, and be clear. You might say, "I love you, and I want to support you, but I am not able to take this on right now." Combining love with a clear boundary is really powerful.
Right. And it is worth remembering that family members who truly care about you will ultimately respect a boundary that is communicated with love. It might feel uncomfortable in the moment, but it usually strengthens the relationship in the long run. Resentment from always saying yes is far more damaging than an honest no.
That is such an important insight. Resentment builds slowly when you keep saying yes against your will, and eventually it comes out in ways that are much more harmful than a simple refusal would have been. A timely, honest no protects the relationship.
So true. And Brian, what about saying no to yourself? Like saying no to habits or temptations that are not good for you. The same language principles apply there too.
That is a really interesting angle. Saying no to yourself is actually one of the hardest forms of refusal, but framing it positively helps. Instead of, "I cannot have that," try, "I'm choosing not to have that." The word choosing puts you in control rather than making you feel deprived.
I love that reframe. I cannot sounds like a restriction from outside. I am choosing not to sounds like a decision from within. It is such a small change in language, but it completely shifts how you feel about the situation. And it builds genuine self-respect over time.
Language shapes how we think and feel. Choosing powerful, positive words even when talking to yourself matters, and that is really the heart of what we talk about on this channel. How the words you choose change everything. Saying and choosing not to instead of "I cannot" is a small change, but it builds a completely different relationship with yourself over time.
Beautifully said. And whether you are saying no to a colleague, a friend, a family member, or yourself, the key is always the same. Be kind, be clear, and be confident. You have the right to say no, and saying it well is a gift to everyone involved.
Perfectly put. A well-delivered no is an act of respect for yourself and for the other person.
Brian, let's also talk about saying no in writing. A lot of people find it easier to say no in person, but freeze when they have to write it in an email or a message.
Written refusals are actually a great opportunity because you have time to choose your words carefully. A good structure for a refusal email is: thank the person, decline clearly, offer an alternative if possible, and close warmly. For example, "Thank you so much for thinking of me for this opportunity. After careful consideration, I have decided it is not the right fit for me at this time. I hope we can find another way to work together in the future."
That structure works so well because every part has a purpose. The thank you shows appreciation. The clear decline avoids confusion. The alternative keeps the relationship positive. And the warm close leaves the door open. You can adapt that formula to almost any situation.
And in messages to friends, it can be even simpler. "Hey, I am so sorry. I cannot make it this time. Hope you all have a great time and let us catch up soon." Short, warm, clear. That is all you need.
Right. And the exclamation mark and "let us catch up soon" signal warmth even in a short message. Written tone can be hard to read, so adding those small signals of friendliness really helps. People are much less likely to feel hurt when the warmth comes through clearly.
Absolutely. In writing, warmth has to be deliberate because the other person cannot see your face or hear your tone. so a little extra effort to sound friendly goes a long way, and always proofread a refusal message before sending. Make sure it sounds the way you intend. Sometimes what feels polite when writing quickly can come across differently when read by the other person.
And that is a wrap for today. Thank you so much for being here with us, everyone. We really hope this conversation gave you the confidence and the words to say no when you need to.
Remember, saying no politely is a skill, and like any skill, it gets easier the more you practice it. You deserve to protect your time and energy, and the people who truly respect you will respect your no too.
We would love to hear from you. Is saying no something you find difficult, or do you have a phrase that works well for you? Leave a comment and share it with everyone.
And if today's conversation was helpful, please give us a like and subscribe to Talk English Freely.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.